closer. The fire's got maybe 10 minutes of life left in it, and the dark has all the time in the world. You ever look at a map? Really look at one? You see those lines, those neat ink-drawn borders. You feel a sense of peace, control. We tell ourselves that if we can draw it, we own it. We think a satellite in the sky is the final word on where the world begins and ends. We believe in the grid. We trust the needle. Siberia doesn't believe in maps, and it certainly doesn't trust you. Out there, in the deep taiga, the ground isn't just dirt and permafrost. It's a lung. It breathes. It shifts. There are stretches of that forest that the Cartographers Union gave up on back in the 70s. They'd send a man in with a transit and a chain, and he'd come back, if he came back, with a notebook full of impossibilities. The air out there, it tastes like rusted iron and frozen sap. It sits heavy in your throat, like you're swallowing graveyard dust. You'll be walking a straight line, heading north by the needle, your boots crunching through the crust of the snow. And then you'll see it. A birch tree, white bark, peeling like dead skin, bent at a 45-degree angle, like it's bowing to something you can't see. You keep walking. 5 miles. 10. The sun doesn't move quite right. It hangs in the sky like a bruised eye, refusing to set. And then, there it is again. The same tree, the same peeling bark, the same weary tilt. You haven't been walking in circles. You haven't moved at all. The forest has. It's stepped in front of you. It's closed the door. They call it the shifting taiga. The locals, the ones who survived the old camps, they don't use maps. They use memories, and even those fail them. You see, the taiga doesn't like being measured. It's got a temper. It has a memory older than the mountains. In 1974, a Soviet geological team, Project Vostok-6, went into the Vasyugan Mire. They were looking for oil, for progress, for anything they could extract from the gut of the earth. They were men of science, men of the state. They brought heavy machinery. They brought radio towers. They set up a base camp on what they recorded as level, stable ground. They hammered iron stakes 3 meters deep into the earth to mark their perimeter. They wanted to pin the world down. By the 3rd night, the stakes were gone, not pulled out, swallowed. The earth had turned to a gray, viscous slurry while they slept, and when it hardened again at dawn, the landscape had rearranged itself. The ridge that was to the west was now to the south. The river they'd used for water, it was a mile away, flowing backward, its surface covered in a black, oily film that smelled of old copper and wet fur. One of the surveyors, a man named Anatoly, wrote in his log about the marching trees. He didn't mean they walked like men. He meant they moved like a tide. He described the sound of the forest moving at night. It wasn't the wind. It was the sound of 1,000 wooden ships groaning against a freezing sea. The wood screams as it moves, a slow, agonizing torsion. Anatoly said the smell of ozone followed the shifts, the scent of a lightning strike without the storm. He'd wake up and find his tent 30 yards from where he pitched it, the stakes still driven into the dirt, but the dirt itself having migrated like a slow-motion glacier. He wrote that the trees weren't growing. They were being pushed by something beneath the crust, something that found our presence irritating, like a splinter in a giant's palm. The Vostok-6 team tried to flee on the 7th day. They followed lined with jagged rocks that look like rows of rotted teeth. Anatoly was the only one who made it out. He was found 300 miles from the site, wandering the tundra. His boots were worn through to the bone. He didn't talk about the men he lost. He only talked about the geometry of the hunger. He said the forest didn't just move. It hunted. It created dead ends. It built walls of timber while they slept. It turned the world into a labyrinth with no exit. There are parts of Siberia where the borders on the map are just suggestions, ghost lines. You cross a certain parallel, and the rules of Euclidean geometry start to fray at the edges. You look back, and your tracks don't lead to the horizon. They stop 20 feet behind you, cut off by a wall of trees that wasn't there when you passed. The dark folk singers, they have a word for it. It doesn't translate well. It's a sound more than a name. A low vibration in the back of the teeth. Pulse. They say the forest is looking for something. Or maybe it's just trying to find a shape that fits its hunger. You see, we think of the earth as a stage, a static thing. But in the taiga, the stage is the lead actor. And it's a method actor. It wants to feel your weight. It wants to feel your fear. If you see that bent birch tree twice, that's the taiga's way of closing the door. It's not a coincidence. It's a signature. It means you've been marked. You're no longer a visitor. You're a guest. And the taiga is a very, very greedy host. The wrongness starts in your inner ear. You lose your balance. I met a man once, a wayfarer like me, though his journey ended in a sanitarium in Omsk. He had no fingernails left. He'd clawed them off trying to climb trees that kept sinking into the mud. He told me he spent 3 days in a clearing that was only 10 feet wide. He'd try to step out, and the trees would simply be there. He'd turn, and they'd be there too. He described the texture of the air as sour milk, the smell of wet wool and stagnant swamp water, the feeling of a cold needle pressing against the back of the neck. He told me he watched a mountain range settle into the earth like a dog lying down for a nap. He watched the horizon fold in on itself like a piece of parchment. He survived because he stopped moving. He sat. He waited. He became as still as the stone. He stopped breathing. He stopped wanting. And eventually, the forest forgot he was there. It moved on, leaving him in a place that didn't exist on any map he'd ever seen. He was found by a helicopter pilot who said the man was sitting in the middle of a perfectly circular field of salt, 500 miles from the nearest salt deposit. The pilot said the man wasn't looking for help. He was looking at his hands. Because even his skin had started to shift. The lines on his palms, they didn't match anymore. The forest had rewritten him, too. We like to think we're the masters of this rock. We build cities. We launch satellites. We think the world is a static thing, a stage for our little play. But out there, in the shifting borders of the taiga, the stage is alive, and it's bored of us. It's bored of our lines. It's bored of our arrogance. If you go out there, if you're foolish enough to think your GPS makes you safe, watch the trees. Don't look at the sky. The sky is a lie. Look at the bark. Look at the roots. If you see that bent birch. The one that looks like it's bowing. Don't turn around. Whatever you do, don't turn around. Because the path you walked to get here, it's gone. It's been folded. It's been swallowed. And you're just the latest bit of cartography that Taiga is busy erasing. Sleep light, friend. If you can sleep at all. Because the ground you're lying on right now, it might not be where you left